Hey everyone, it's Mari here. Today I'm collaborating with Audrey Yeager for her Summer Scrappin 2020 series. I'm going to be creating this 12 by 12 scrapbooking layout, and I'm also going to combine this with my scrapbooking tips and tricks series, where I'm today going to show you how to create a scene background for your 12 by 12 layout. So I'm going to start off here by showing you some of the cut files that I'm going to be using today for my project and the photograph. This is a photo that I took recently this month when we spent a day at the lake in our boat. And I'm going to be using a little bit of mixed media here today. So I wanted to treat my white cardstock with a little bit of transparent gesso, and that's all ready to go. It's all dry now, and I'm ready to go ahead and start with my mixed media. Before I do that, I just want to show you the cut files. These are cut files from Annette's Designs in Etsy, and one part of it says sunny days, and then there's this palm tree part that I'm going to be using for the bottom to kind of create the bottom part of our scene. So to create my scene today, definitely the cut files are pivotal. They're super important in the scene that I'm going to be creating, but I have just shown you how I've made little pencil marks on my paper so that I can see where my cut file is going to go. And you can see I've got some watercolor magicals. I have a little paint palette. I have my water and my little spray tool here to work on my mixed media background for my layout. So to create some of the watercolor effect, I'm going to be using some craft brushes here, just some watercolor brushes. And these are the Vicky Bouton mixed media brushes. They're really great for these techniques that I'm going to be using today. And I'm going to start off with just making sure I have everything ready to go here. I've got a little bit of tissue there for sopping up any extra water. And I have chosen the color palette from the Magicals from Lindy Stamp Gang. And I want them to coordinate with the Dear Lizzie Here and Now collection. So I'm just showing you here some of the colors that are in this collection. And this is exactly how I matched up what I was going to be using for colors today, just by taking my swatches from my Lindy's Magicals and then just finding colors that are going to coordinate, depending on what I want to use. So I wasn't really sure which of these colors I wanted to use on the layout, but I wanted them ready to go just in case. And there I'm just showing you how these colors all coordinate beautifully with the photograph that I'm going to be using today. So I'm going to start off here with some Mad Hatter green, and this is just a really pretty mint green color, and it just goes so nicely with the collection, and it's going to look really pretty as my foliage on the bottom part of my layout where my palm trees are going to sit. So I do have an idea of where that palm tree cut file is going to go. Like I said, I laid it on there and I just made little marks with my pencil as to where the different parts of the trees will be. And then you'll also see that I do put the cut file back on my layout as I'm going, just to make sure I have the color where I want it on my scene. Now I am going to create two little wells of water here. I put the pigment in the one, and then the other one above that I have just some clear water, and it just allows me to dilute the color a little bit so that I can control the depth of the pigment that I want on my project. Now I often work with soft colors. That's kind of just my style. I really like the look of that, and you'll just see that I am really going to water down these pigments, and then to create the depth and difference in the color sort of value, what I'm going to do is just dip into that darker and just add it into the pools of water. So I started off by adding water to my paper. Now remember, my paper has gesso in it, so it can take some moisture. And then I just took my pigment and dipped it into the water. So this is like any other watercolor wet on wet technique. And here you can just see that I've put the pigment in, I'm letting it run. I'm going to dry it with my heat tool a little bit as well. And I will run this paper through my laminator to get it all nice and flat again, so that you'll see when I'm all finished with my mixed media, it is nice and flat. Now I have gone ahead and put my magicals where my palm fronds are, where the leaves of the palm trees and the tops of the trees are. So that's all done, it's dry. And now I'm going to go in with some of my blue colors to create the sky above my my treed area. So I'm using a couple of different colors for my blue, and I'm going to mix them together. One is called Bachelor Button, and that's the darker one that you see there. And the other color I'm going to use is Tiffany Lou's Blue, and it's more of a blue-green. It's a beautiful color. It's a little bit more of an aqua, and I would say that the Bachelor Button's a little bit more on the cobalt side. So when you mix these two together, you get just a beautiful dreamy sky blue, and that's exactly what I wanted for my blue for the sky area above my little palm tree area. So you can see the scene is starting to develop, and how this cut file is going to work into this. I really love it, and this is just a really fun way to make your own background. It's not hard to do. You don't need magicals. You can use whatever you have in your stash. You can use watercolor crayons, you can use actual watercolor, whatever medium you have. You could also use inks and water them down, so if you have distress inks or anything like that, and you can use those to create your own little scene. Now, if you don't have a cutting machine to cut a cut file, you don't need one. You can create this little scene yourself, and you can create the parts of your scene with patterned paper for that matter. Perhaps you've got some patterned paper that has some shapes on it, or even a little bit of a scene on the pattern paper that you can fussy cut out to create your different images on your little scene background. So here you can just see I'm using the same method to drop in the blue on my layout. I've put the water down, I've added that pigment, and I'm mixing the blue as I go. If I want the darker value of the blue, I'm just taking it direct from the Bachelor Button, and so on and so forth. I'm using some splattering techniques on here as well, here and there, and that just adds a little bit of darker pigment in those areas where those drops land. And you can just see this is looking really interesting. I'm picking it up and letting the water and the pigment flow a little bit. And as it dries, it's going to be light in some areas and dark in some areas. And it's just going to look really interesting and soft. It's really subtle. And I really love that. Now, this is a stencil from my stash. It's from Honeybee Stamps. And I'm going to take some antique linen distress oxide ink and a blending brush. I've taped my stencil onto my paper with some purple tape, and I'm just going to blend on some of that antique linen for my son, for my scene as well, because I don't have a son, and I just thought it would look really neat above the photograph, kind of behind the picture of Bailey, so that it looks like the sun is behind her. I thought that was a really neat effect, and I do really like how this looks, and I just wanted the ink to fade out. I don't want to go over the lines of the stencil that are the border, because I don't want that border line around it. So you just see I'm just slowly blending out those sun rays so that they just fade off. And when I remove the stencil here, you'll just see how cool this looks. This only takes a few minutes. It didn't take me long at all. And there I have just a really neat stencil of a sun and the sun rays in the background. So there you can see my trees. I'm just going to show you kind of roughly where I want my photo to go. And you can see how our scene is coming together here. Now there's the rest of the cut file, which says sunny days. And I really love how that's going to go up in that upper left area there. It's a perfect spot for the title. Now I want to back the sunny part, which it's got its open letters, so it just lends itself to being backed. You wouldn't have to do that, but I just thought it would look neat and add a little bit of nice detail. So I'm just going to, with my fine liner bottle, I'm just going to add some liquid adhesive to the back of the cut file, and then I'll just lay it down on that patterned paper, and I'm going to use the same pattern paper for all of the letters, make it super easy. And then I'll just take my scissors and cut around the outside edge of the cut file, and that is going to just provide a really nice title piece for our title for the layout. And I really like how this looks when it's all finished. And this just takes a second. I'm using my Cutter Bee scissors to go ahead and cut around the outside edge. Now I have trimmed down my white paper so that I can use a border on it, and that's a navy and white striped border paper from the collection, from the Here and Now collection. And I'm also taking a Vicki Boutin stencil, and this is from Vicki's last release, I believe. And I love that it's kind of has that wave look to it. So I just thought it might be really neat to just put a little bit of subtle ink blending for waves in behind our palm tree background. So I'm taking some Tumble Glass Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just blending that through the stencil really lightly, like it's just really subtle, but it just adds that little bit of extra layer in our scene to give our scene a little more depth and a little more interest. And so I'm just going to add it in a few little places here behind our palm tree cut file. I think I added in 3 spots. And here you can just see I'm laying the cut file back over top again to see where else I might like to have that stenciling. And then I'm going to go ahead and just add that on in another place to the right and just get that all nicely stenciled. And then it's going to add some nice texture in that way. So this is just a tailored expression blending brush that I'm using here with, once again, that's Tumble Glass Distress Oxide ink. So there you can see how that's going to look. And once again, I have a firm idea of where I want the photo to go, and I am really happy with how this is looking. And there you can see my son in the background there, and our scene is coming together. So I am going to just show you here, I added a little bit of stitching to my son with my sewing machine, and I have also added some some pattern paper layers to my photo. So I'm going to get those adhered together at this point. I'm taking my distressing tool and I'm going to distress my pattern paper layers. These papers again are from Here and Now. Everything that I'm using for a collection today is from the Dear Lizzie Here and Now collection. These papers came from the 8x6 paper pad. I'm going to use some craft foam between my photo and my first layer of pattern paper and my photo mat. I am going to just stick that craft foam onto the next layer using a little bit of really sticky tape runner. And then I will go ahead and add the next patterned paper layer behind that so that there's just a really thin mat of pattern paper around my photo. And now I'm just going to put my embellishments in place, and I'm going to stick them down off camera just because I'm just going to stick them down. It's not that exciting to watch or really that informative as far as I'm concerned. So here you can just see I fussy cut some flowers from some pattern paper from Here and Now. And I just thought it might be kind of fun to put some tropical flowers as embellishments here and there and some tropical leaves. I've grabbed one of the stickers that's navy that says Summer Vibes in gold. And I wanted to do a little bit of navy in the layout as well, since the border, the mat around the whole layout is navy. So you'll just see that I add little pops of navy blue here and there when I'm embellishing. Also wanted to pop on this little camera. I thought that was really super cute. And another one of those little floral bits on that bottom left-hand corner of the photo also. And here, you know, I'm just having fun trying to figure out where I want to place things, just trying them in different spots and seeing how they look. And then once I have them all where I want them, I actually take my iPhone and I take a picture of it, and then I stick everything down using that picture as a reference. So here you can see I actually colored the word days from the cut file from the for the title with some pink Lindy's Magicals. And I am just going to go ahead and continue here. I've got those sunglasses up in the title area, another little floral piece that I fussy cut. And here I'm just going to show you all of the little details I've added, like some little enamel dots and some other little like foliage stickers and so on. And then my journaling strips, and this layout's finished. I love how this turned out. It was so fun. And I do want to thank Audrey for hosting this series again this summer. She always does a great job of bringing everybody together and giving them an opportunity to participate in this series. It's so much fun. And I hope you got some tips and tricks again today in our scrapbooking tips and tricks series. Please make sure you leave me a comment below and check the description box for links to the products that I used today. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.